It's all about you. It's all about you, baby.
So thrilled to be able to kick this podcast off with a chat with the fantastic Sarah Winckless, MBE. She is a British Olympic rower, won a bronze medal in double sculls and was twice world champion. And as we're about to find out, she's a great ambassador for many other areas in life too. Over to Sarah. And so, welcome, Sarah Winckless.
Thank you very much for having me.
So it's great to have Sarah here. We can always chat about everything and really take the world on, and we're never frightened of any kind of topic. But Sarah, I'm really quite keen to get stuck straight in and find out. This podcast is enabling people to go from great to greater, and often through a traumatic experience. And I just wondered what your Olympic training has given you to tackle things like that.
Oh, Deborah, I think you ask a great question. I think it started before my Olympic training, actually. I think it started at school and with sport. And the great thing about the sports field is when it goes well, you feel 1,000,000 foot tall. I'm already 6 foot, but I felt 1,000,000 foot tall. You're amongst your friends, they're supporting you. And when it goes wrong, you can often isolate yourself and blame yourself and relive that moment time and time again. And that can be massively useful to help you get better. But also it can be massively draining because you're not being nice to yourself, you're not allowing yourself to recover. So those two sides of the coin were really interesting with me. I was brilliant at that. I let myself down, I've let my team down, I'm going to go and work harder, I'm going to be stronger and fitter and faster. I wasn't yet good at being nice to myself with it and realising this was a strength. And my Olympic training, and particularly working with Britt Foxhall, who was my sports psychologist over 10 years, who actually worked for the Royal Ballet. I know you absolutely love that institution. She was able to help me see both sides of the coin and do the dance between the two. Yeah. So be nice to myself and allow myself to be gentle with myself, but also to be hard on myself to gain performance. And that dance for me was a real learning.
I just love this topic of conversation because you know, when you're going through a tough time, it's so easy to beat yourself up, and it's the last thing you need. And lots of people used to say to me, you're going to fight this cancer, aren't you going to fight this cancer? No, I wasn't going to fight the cancer. My body was going to do that and I was going to work with it. But what I was going to do is fight for my mental space. And actually, that's exactly what you're talking about. And you wouldn't speak to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, would you?
Oh, such a brilliant spot, and that mental space. And if you think of a sort of oak tree, and that's when we're trying to be really tough on ourselves. When the wind blows, unfortunately, as we know, the oak tree falls over. What is it like to move and bend with your mentality, the thoughts you have, choosing whether to engage with them because they're helping and optimising your performance, or choosing just to let them go at this point because
you don't have to own them, do you?
And they don't have to own you.
Own you, most of the point, yeah. So I've always said this podcast isn't about me or about cancer, but time and time again these lessons keep coming up, and I'm taken back to when I was on round 2 lying in bed. I didn't have any friends around me because I chose to go on my own. I think I was going a little bit insane. Because you've got to keep that mental space going in the right direction, and you have to fight for that sometimes.
And I think there's something I say quite often: the thoughts give the playlist to your days.
Nice, yeah.
And that playlist is, what playlist do you want to pick?
Yeah,
and
what
do you need that day?
Yeah.
And so therefore, which songs of your thoughts do you want to engage with?
Yeah.
For me, I was always a very nervous athlete. I like to get nervous if I'm honest. That kind of made me feel like I was ready for a performance, and I'd almost get nervous about not being nervous if I didn't feel the butterflies. So I think I played games with myself to sort of make the performance really scary, so I got the sort of output beforehand of adrenalines and cortisol. I learned to love that feeling. However, if it became too much, I couldn't perform. So I had to manage that dance again.
It's a learning process about yourself all the time, isn't it?
Certainly it is.
I kind of feel also, I kind of realise that you don't learn as much you know, I recently collected a lovely award, and you've collected medals in the past, but you're not really learning while you're on that podium. It's the failures that you learn from the most, and they're vital to your progress.
It is, and you know, this is real Carol Dweck stuff, isn't it? Fail, first attempt in learning. And I think I was afraid of failure when I first came into this world. I thought it was maybe a signal from the outside world that I wasn't good enough.
Yes,
absolutely, and perhaps I should stop and change pathways.
Yeah.
Since I've retired from international sports and I've worked into the leadership and coaching, so I failed lots and lots of times, and from those I learned.
Yeah.
You know, when we came second in the World Championships rather than winning the gold medal, we debriefed that race brilliantly. We spent time in every level of the system, the 4 athletes in the boat, our coaches, our support staff. How could each one of us do better? When we actually found out we won that race because the boat had beaten us, had cheated, we realised that the boat that cheated gave us one of the biggest gifts, because we actually reviewed a success as well as we'd have reviewed what we perceived as a failure.
Yeah.
And we need to sort of treat success and failure in the same branch, I think.
Yeah.
You know, what did we do to get there? What were the 3 or 4 or 5 things that were good that we want to keep? And then what's one thing that actually we want to be better at?
Yeah. That's incredible. And so looking back at your career and taking all those lessons that you learnt into what you do now, which is just about loads of stuff, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that the rowing side gave you to carry forward in your life?
Yeah, the things I do now is to help people be themselves with skill, help them to get where they want to get through being really clear about what they want to achieve, constant learning and collaboration. And I think rowing gives you all of those.
Yeah.
You come into sport with a dream and not really an idea of how good you can be. Certainly I thought I was a sprint athlete. I don't think I could row 2,000 metres in anger. I didn't know if I was brave enough. But I was lucky enough to have a door open to me, and through the women I was training with, we started to talk about what we wanted to achieve and what we believed we could achieve. And then you start to get clarity. And then if you're going to do that, you have to learn. You have to start learning about yourself. You have to learn about what you want to do. So the techniques, the psychology, the nutrition to make your body, your weapon of war, if you like, work as well as possible. And then you have to collaborate, because even if you're a single sculler, most of your training is done with other people around you and supporting you. So how do you collaborate with your team to make that as good as possible? And of course that works brilliantly in business every single time. What is it? What are you trying to achieve? How do you learn about it, and what do you need to spend your time learning about it? And actually, in this day and age, who are your curators? Because podcasts like this, for me, are a brilliant way of curating all the information that's out there. You can read 1,000 books, or you can listen to some podcasts and people who've read 1,000 books.
Just people chit-chatting along, and you can pick some real nuggets out, can't you? Yeah, which propel you on in your quest of whatever you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and then I think the bit, no one does it on their own. So who do you need to collaborate with? Yeah. What's the thing you're holding on to that actually you don't need to be doing? So you can give that to someone else, support it, do it, ditch it, delegate it, or delay it if you like. Yeah. So then you can go and do your best work. Yeah,
no, that's brilliant. One of the things that I've learnt to do this year is I thought I had to do everything myself. I think from the age of 8 years old, I've been doing everything for myself. I think your brain just says, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and squeezes you through this little channel. I'll find a route through for you, but you're actually closing everything down that you've got in your head. Whereas I've now taken the stance of keeping the channels open, so to speak, and allowing other people to come in and building a team around you. I've learned that this year with gusto. It's a vital thing when we're not able to do everything on our own, which is kind of how I've lived quite a lot of my life, to be honest.
Yeah, and we're pack animals. We are designed.
Yeah, well, look, why social media is so successful is because we want to be sociable and reach out and connect with other people.
It's really, really important, and it can be such a positive force for good. And I think you're right, when we're living with a constant to-do list, our focus, our brain sort of capacity can become very narrow.
Yeah,
because
and
it's the
insular.
next thing.
Yeah.
And where do we do our best thinking? Well, it's not when you're sitting in front of your computer answering your emails.
No, it's not. It isn't.
It's the moments
when you're
we're
out walking
outside,
or rowing or doing
cycling.
things you love. Yeah.
Yeah. In an art gallery, somewhere when you're not actually thinking.
Yeah, letting your brain just run for have some space. Really, that's what we're saying. And I think it's all too easy to get caught up in the doing of something that just closes everything down. My favourite place to go is the sea. I just get everything from that. I can sit and stare at the sea for a good couple of hours.
It is. It's a lesson I need to keep learning, and I reflect on this as we speak.
Well, we forget, don't we? Life comes at you, it powers down on you sometimes, and it's not always easy to remember to take yourself off and let your brain open up a little bit. That sounds like a good idea, actually.
You're going to the sea. I'm not quite sure where I'm going. I can't come with.
I'll see you later. Sarah, I also wanted to touch on not only your brilliant Olympic career and the fantastic work you're doing now, but all of those lessons that you learnt, and there have been some tough ones, have carried you forward in a very different area of your life. And I wonder if we could just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Huntington's is another really important strand of my life. As I was growing up, probably when you were 8 and starting to do everything yourself, unfortunately, my mum was becoming ill with Huntington's. We had no language for it at the time. We didn't know she had a disease. I just knew she had changed. By the end of the next decade, if you like, she was pretty unwell. And we still had no language for it. We still didn't know what it was, but her changes of behaviour had been huge. And in that time, I have a couple of memories, and she sort of, interestingly, would live a what-if life in those. There was a real regret to her, and I don't know if she knew she was getting ill, and potentially she wasn't supported in all sorts of ways to understand her thinking, that beating up that we were talking about earlier, and perhaps also, the disease, Huntington's, was doing its work, because we know it affects mood, memory and movement. But she would look at a lot of her life and just say, what if I'd taken another path? What if I'd taken another path?
That's hard, isn't it?
And it was really hard and sad for her. And I think the gift she gave me was, I'm going to give it a go. Whatever I choose, it might be a terrible path, but I'm not to the point of destruction, but I will follow it and find out. And that was massively liberating.
Yeah.
Of course, when I was in my young 20s, I discovered that she had Huntington's, and with that I discovered I was at risk of the gene, and 6 months later I discovered I did have the gene. So I, like her, and there is great hope for our community at the moment, unless there are ways of slowing down disease, at some point we'll start to follow that path of the illness. And I think sport helped me incredibly, certainly in those first few years. There was one guy, and I talked to Ian Dryden about this myself, who was one of my coaches, and I was on the rowing machine, and anyone who's ever done the rowing machine will know any excuse you want to stop. Anyway, I had a brilliant excuse. I just tested positive for Huntington's. So I started on this ergo, and unbeknownst to me, my brain was doing its terrible work and finding a way out. Yeah. And I stopped and burst into tears. I threw the handle at the ergo, and I can't do this. I've got Huntington's. And Ian looked at me and went, not today, you don't. Get back on.
Fabulous.
And he was right, and we laugh about it now. 45 now I am.
Not today, you don't.
And I was 20, I don't know, 2 at the time. So 22, 23 years later, thank God I don't have it today either. And he was right. And it's amazing, isn't it? But
it is amazing.
The people you need around you. Sometimes to give you a cuddle, and sometimes to give you a kick. And Ian brilliantly gave me a kick that day.
Chose the right moment.
He really did. And we're often afraid that the people around us, we have to be always nice to them. But actually, we just need to be real with them, I think.
He knew your personality and how to deal with that. And I kind of look at situations like that. You can choose to live in fear, which you were choosing that day, actually, by giving up and feeling a little bit sorry for yourself, justifiably so. But he was right to get you back on the horse, as it were, or back on the ergo at the time.
Not kind,
No,
but
no,
right.
no. Yeah, right, yeah. I think he kind of gave you the right path for that moment. And you can choose to spend your life in fear, or you can choose to spend your life in joy, and it's a choice.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, certainly for you and for myself, we could both go through the next few years fearful. But actually, I choose to spend my joy coins, if you will, and just rein in some real happy, positive, life-enforcing, affirming a lifestyle, and make that choice rather than choosing to worry about things, because the worrying of stuff just doesn't alter anything. You know, you can worry that you're going to get anything, and then all of a sudden when you get it, the worrying that you did prior to it doesn't stand you in any stead whatsoever, does it?
Oh, you're spot on. And actually, if you think about the neuroscience and us as animals, that worry raises our adrenaline, raises our inflammation. It means we have more cortisol.
Yeah,
and
you're operating on a different level, aren't you?
Less able to fight off
Yes.
any illness and disease. So actually, the joy, as you call it, opening up your brain is going to work. I think it's on DHEA rather than cortisol, and they call that the vitality hormone. So you'll take that, won't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a choice to do that.
Yeah.
And so happiness is a choice, and sometimes you've got to fight for that choice. It's like, I've always likened it to flipping a switch. Sometimes it's really not easy to do, but you've got to fight. I think I've come to understand, if your mind's not in a good space, your body cannot possibly follow, and so you've got to fight for that mental health.
Oh, you're spot on. And I think, I had a time shortly after I retired, so I wasn't doing as much exercise as usual, so my coping strategies of endorphins probably weren't as prevalent. My siblings had all had brilliant news that they didn't have the gene for Huntington's, and each one of them, I was delighted that they got that news. But then the sort of unhappiness, if you like, wormed its way into my mind. I'm the only one, I'm different.
Why me?
Why me? Yeah, that 23-year-old who felt sorry for themselves and got off the ergo was suddenly an adult. Oh, 23 isn't an adult. You know, on their own, cutting themselves off. And it was, I felt really lucky that I believe in the stuff we're talking about. I genuinely believe in it. And I was working with Brit. She did psychology with me, not psychology to me. And I understood as much as I could that I had control and choice. And I had to find a better way of working and thinking about my situation. And I found one. Huntington's is 50-50. So in a family of 4, of which I am one, you might get 2 good news, 2 bad news. If you're looking at the sort of general
stats,
population, the stats. And out of 3 out of 4, we'd beaten the odds. And that, for me, was a completely different way of framing the same fact. It was a game changer. Yeah. And it made me feel strong. It makes me feel just part of my family in a different way. And I believe that by just repeating to it, finding ways of anchoring those thoughts into my mind, rather than the other one that had wormed its way in, I would be more able to have good days more often, and I find that happens. You know, yet I can slip off the other side.
It's a muscle, isn't it? Really, that you have to build. If you don't use it, you lose it. Is the phrase? And that's absolutely right. I recently went on a course, and we talked about living above or below the line, and that's resonated strongly with me, because it's a decision you can make like that.
I love it. And the Oz principle. I've got the book just over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I feel that it doesn't matter what comes at you. You can choose to take it above the line, or you can let it drag you below the line. And I'm choosing to live my life above the line and be full of vitality and get up and go, and let's have this life. Let's ring it out.
Yeah, I love it. And I think they talk about see the problem from the, and then own the problem or the opportunity, then solve it, find some things that you can do to keep you above the line, and then do it. Yeah. And do that action as well.
And the doing it bit. So the doing it bit is a bit where a lot of people, myself included, have fallen down. Reverting right back to our earlier conversation, is the understanding you don't have to do it on your own.
Yes.
So once you've done all of that you've said and solved it and understood what you've got to do, build people around you to help you get through to the next stepping stone.
What's the team that you need
Yeah.
and want? And that's a really good, and another lesson I need to keep learning, because when I go into stress, that I'll do it myself.
Yes, it just closes you down, doesn't it?
And also, it can feel productive. I've just got lots to do. I'm in overwhelm. Just do something rather than pause, look at the whole task that you're trying to complete, and actually who's the team you need.
Yeah.
And
so the going at it, like you've just said, and you get more insular, you just close yourself down, you're not asking for help, you become more under the line, your world looks blacker. If you don't recognise that pattern and that it's happening to you, there's a spiral, the spiral of doom, I called it. And I got on that myself. I had 2 years of being really low and depressed, and I didn't recognise it, because I recognised, for me, I did fed up, but I didn't do depressed. So I kind of tricked myself into thinking I wasn't really low. I'm going back a few years now. And the recognition of that is colossal.
Yeah.
And then you realise, again, you need a team, you need people around you. I'm not asking to suck the life out of them. I'm just saying, let's go out for a drink, let's meet for a coffee, let's do the theatre, let's do whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just involve yourself with people to keep yourself raised up.
I think that's a really, really good spot. And I think the other bit I observe, that sometimes I've really used the person who's my partner in my life to really support me, and then I've been fine with everyone else.
Yeah.
And actually the truth is that's not fair on your partner.
No, they're not there for everything, are they?
And you're not open to everyone else who
No.
can offer you all sorts of brilliant
Oh my goodness, yeah.
support, wisdom, love.
And actually support in a way you could never have dreamt up.
Yeah.
I've met some incredible people this year, mainly because I've learnt to open myself up and accept the help. And then, boy, has it flooded in. And that's been a thing of beauty, actually, and learning about other people. So I think the closing down doesn't serve you at all. Trying to remain open at all times is where the juice is. Not living in fear, but opening your mind to being happy and joyful and fighting for that.
I love the fighting element as well, because there is, that could be with boxing gloves, but it could be with freedom as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so many people said to me, you're going to fight this, you're going to fight this. No, I'm not going to fight it. I don't need, it's a dis-ease in my body that needs love and working with and understanding. That's how I've treated it. It's worked for me, touch wood. And the fight, as I said, has been all for my mental strength, because I've been down the spiral of doom and I didn't want to go down there again. And that's worth fighting for, I think.
It is so powerful. The brain, we're going to say it first, biggest muscle in the body.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, it's a funny looking thing, but it does a lot for you. So yeah, I think all of that, Sarah. There's just so many topics of conversation for the pair of us here. But it's been a thrill to speak to you today, and hopefully you'll come back as a guest at some other point, because there's so many things we can learn from you. But I just want to take the time to say I'm thrilled with the news that we have about Huntingdon's and the progress it's making, and there's new developments all the time, and you're a shining beacon for it because of your attitude and how you've gone out and taken your life on.
Thank you. And it's interesting, because I think the bit I've really learned, I got that news in my young 20s, and I have absolutely maybe lived life to the full, but without real hope. Without real hope, the last 20 years of my life wouldn't mirror Mum's. And amazingly, through the amazing work that the scientists are now doing, there is hope. There's hope for my community for the first time. And that is a powerful emotion, and that is liberating.
Yeah.
So I guess, do not belittle hope, I'm going to say, but find hope. Where is the thing that you can have hope and joy over? Because they're so strong.
They are, and even if it's just the smallest chink, take it, because you can build it's a stepping stone in my view. Only until you've stepped onto that smallest chink of hope can you then view where the next bit is. But if you don't take that step, you're removed from the next section of your life, and so it's just taking those little steps all the time. Sometimes they're minuscule, but they all contribute, don't they?
Yeah, and I've lived my life without that hope element in 4-year cycles, and those 4-year cycles have been incredible. But the step I now find myself on is I might have to be responsible for the next 15, 20, 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
Which is a
fabulous thing.
A fabulous thing. And I can set a goal beyond 4 years. And
for
me, it is the most amazing thing to be.
Well, and you're such an ambassador, Sarah. You are for everything, actually. I mean, even, I know that you work with the Olympics and you're still heavily involved in that. You're an ambassador for that. You're an ambassador for our youngsters coming through, which is terrific. You're an ambassador for hunting. That's what you are, an ambassador. We are in the midst of an ambassador.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, and I'll definitely come back again. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'd like to cover 3 points that Sarah made while we were chatting. The first one, don't beat yourself up. Making mistakes is a normal part of growing, and speaking to yourself kindly is so vital to that. The opposite of that is making yourself feel ashamed and guilty and living below the line. I think there's a full topic to be taken on its own there, but shame is debilitating. Second point, treat success and failure as the same. I've learnt that if you can flip a situation over and look at the underside of it, the opposite sometimes to what you think you should be doing, you can find the nugget and the juice of your life. And that's if you're willing to take the look. Sometimes you need to be super brave to be able to do that. And then, of course, take a courage pill to take action on it once you've discovered it. And the third thing was making space for your head in this fast-paced life is a necessary tool to living a creative and healthy and fulfilled life. I'm learning to put my own oxygen mask on first, and I think that's best advice for many, many people. And I wanted to finish with the brilliant poem from Rudyard Kipling, which you will have certainly heard, but it's worth listening to again. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. If you like this podcast, like it, comment on it, or share it. Thank you.
It's all about you. It's all